They arrived seeking pain and they arrived seeking chaos, and at the conclusion of one of World Wrestling Entertainment's most violent and brutal evenings, a masked phantom materialized seemingly out of thin air, catching the World Heavyweight Champion completely off guard and leaving countless voices reverberating throughout the arena asking the same question over and over again: who exactly was that mysterious individual? And tonight we are going to thoroughly explore and examine the wildfire of speculation and controversy that is currently swirling around Monday Night Raw, including all of the rumors surrounding a mystery savior or perhaps a saboteur, and we will investigate whether that cloaked and concealed figure who walked directly into Bron Breakker's path was genuinely Jon Moxley or if it was something far more calculated and devious than anyone could have imagined. So strap yourselves in tightly because this secret revelation could completely reshape and redefine the entire power structure within World Wrestling Entertainment for the foreseeable future. And welcome back to WWE Discuss, which is the destination where we meticulously break down every single turnbuckle moment, every whispered rumor circulating backstage, and every shocking and jaw-dropping moment in World Wrestling Entertainment without any sugar-coating or holding back whatsoever. And if you genuinely love comprehensive deep dives and completely unfiltered takes on the wrestling world and everything happening within it, make sure to hit that subscribe button right now, ring that notification bell so you never miss an upload, and let us get directly into this explosive content and analysis. The dust has barely had time to settle from Survivor Series War Games 2025, which was held at the impressive Petco Park venue, when the World Wrestling Entertainment universe was left absolutely reeling and spinning, not just from the incredibly brutal War Games match itself, but from a singular moment that completely redefined and transformed the entire event and its lasting impact. And in the final act of the evening, a mysterious figure who was dressed from head to toe in black attire scaled the intimidating cage structure, dropped a devastating superkick followed immediately by a stomp directly onto CM Punk, which was a move that cleared the path and opened the door for Bron Breakker to successfully pin Punk and hand victory to his side in dramatic fashion. And for just a fleeting second that seemed to last forever, it looked like a familiar shadow that many in attendance thought they recognized, as some fans and commentators whispered amongst themselves saying that is Seth Rollins making an unexpected appearance. But Rollins is reportedly injured and currently recovering from shoulder surgery, which raised immediate doubts and questions about that particular theory and whether it could possibly be accurate. Instead of that scenario, multiple credible outlets ranging from PW Insider to Fightful Select are claiming that the mystery man was not Rollins at all, but was actually Austin Theory, making a shock return under the cover of darkness and secrecy. And if this information turns out to be true and accurate, this was not just a one-off swerve or temporary plot device, as this may very well be the launch and beginning of a full reintegration for Theory and a complete reshaping of allegiances inside the heel faction division that could have long-lasting ramifications. And some insiders within the wrestling industry are even suggesting that the spot was planned and orchestrated as part of a longer-term creative strategy that has been in development for quite some time now. Immediately after the show concluded and went off the air, confusion hit social media platforms like a tidal wave, as the masked man's silhouette and the signature curb stomp maneuver triggered flashbacks and memories of Rollins in the minds of many viewers. But the injury timeline made that scenario increasingly unlikely upon further examination, and that opened the door wide for intense speculation and theorizing among the fanbase, as some wondered could it possibly be a surprise return of Jon Moxley, which is something that some fans dared to hope for given Moxley's extensive history and unpredictable nature, while others predicted alternate names ranging from returning veterans to shocking wildcard entries that nobody saw coming. However, reputable wrestling news sites including Fightful Select, PW Insider, and SE Scoops have reported that World Wrestling Entertainment sources have identified the attendee and performer as Austin Theory based on their inside information. And on top of that crucial detail, commentary during War Games itself and backup confirmation from referees and backstage officials in subsequent shows cast serious doubt on Rollins being involved, and by extension someone using his signature moves was mostly ruled out as a realistic possibility. But still, not everyone in the wrestling community is completely convinced by this explanation, as some analysts and observers believe that the identity could shift again before the final reveal occurs, since creative direction in World Wrestling Entertainment is known to pivot and change course unexpectedly, and that means even if Theory was under the hood and mask on Sunday night, the eventual reveal could end up being someone else entirely, maybe even a shock return from a legend that would blow the roof off the arena. So the state of things right now at this current moment in time is that official or semi-official sources are pointing toward Theory as the most likely candidate, but speculation about Moxley or someone completely unexpected remains very much alive and well within the wrestling discourse and fan theories that continue to circulate online. And the question that needs to be asked is, why exactly is this more than just a simple shock appearance or momentary surprise? And the answer is because this attack did not happen during some random mid-card match that would be forgotten by next week. as it was the main event of War Games, which is one of the biggest events of the year, and the mystery attacker moment did not just change the outcome of the match in a superficial way, as it shifted the entire narrative trajectory for World Wrestling Entertainment heading into 2026 and beyond in profound ways. If the Masked Man is indeed Austin Theory as the reports suggest, that development gives the Vision faction a fresh and younger weapon in their arsenal, someone who can strike suddenly and unexpectedly, escape without suffering trademark consequences and sow distrust within factions and alliances throughout the locker room, and it ramps up the perceived danger level for babyfaces significantly, as it serves as a strategic way to protect veteran heels like Breaker and Bronson Reed from taking pins or suffering injuries during matches, since someone else can absorb the damage and take the falls while they remain dominant and protected, and many reports are suggesting that this was indeed the long-term plan all along from the creative team. This development injects massive unpredictability into the product, since with a masked and unconfirmed assailant lurking around, wrestlers and fans alike do not know who is coming next or when they might strike, which builds tension and anticipation and makes every backstage moment potentially dangerous and explosive, and if the attacker turns out to be someone else entirely like Moxley or even a returning big-name star from the past, the stakes get elevated even higher than they already are, and that would mean cross-brand implications that affect multiple shows, career-boosting momentum for whoever is involved, and possibly a major shift in locker room dynamics and power structures that could reverberate for months. Regardless of who is ultimately revealed to be under that mask, this moment signals very clearly that World Wrestling Entertainment is not just coasting or riding things out for the next few weeks until the next pay-per-view event, as they are crafting and constructing a storyline that could echo and resonate well into WrestleMania season and potentially become one of the defining narratives of the entire year. And if we fast forward to the latest episode of Raw, which took place after Survivor Series, the fallout is absolutely raging and intensifying with each passing moment, as the Masked Man's attack still hangs over the locker room like a dark cloud of uncertainty. Officials backstage have tried desperately to get answers and information, with the referee who was involved in the match being questioned extensively, but there has been no definitive identification made public at this time, and the identity remains unofficially unmasked, which keeps the mystery alive. And meanwhile, Bron Breakker has wasted absolutely no time whatsoever in capitalizing on the situation, as he cut a scathing and intense promo against CM Punk that was designed to stir the pot even further, demanding respect from everyone, mocking Punk relentlessly, and promising even more destruction and violence in the weeks to come. The tension between these two competitors now is intensely personal and not just professional in nature, as inside the Vision faction, the addition of the Masked Man, if it is indeed Theory as sources suggest, gives them a significant new edge and advantage, creating a silent enforcer whose unpredictability makes them exponentially more dangerous than they were before, and some insiders are saying that this was part of a long-game strategy orchestrated by their manager Paul Heyman, who is aiming to rebuild the stable with fresh talent while simultaneously protecting their main assets from unnecessary damage or exposure. For babyfaces like Punk, this development is a massive red flag and warning sign that things are about to get much more complicated, as the advantage that the heel faction now possesses is no longer just about numbers or alliances or physical dominance, but it is about subterfuge, surprise hits that come out of nowhere, and psychological warfare that messes with the minds of their opponents. And with all the smoke and speculation surrounding Theory, you might find yourself wondering, where exactly does Jon Moxley fit into this entire complicated situation and narrative? For many wrestling fans, Moxley represents an untamed variable and complete wild card who is strong enough and unpredictable enough to blow up any storyline if he enters the picture, and right now at this very moment, there are rumors circulating, social media chatter intensifying, and fan forums buzzing with hints and speculation about his name potentially being involved. And the reasons why Moxley resonates as a possibility in people's minds include his extensive history in professional wrestling, which is filled with unpredictability, raw intensity, willingness to take incredible risks, and a career that has been filled with shocking returns and brutal violence that fans remember vividly. His free agent status is another factor that makes people wonder, as if all Elite Wrestling or his prior commitments are currently in flux or uncertain, a return to World Wrestling Entertainment even as a masked surprise could serve as a major shock value moment that would generate headlines worldwide, and the narrative potential is absolutely enormous, since if World Wrestling Entertainment wants to blur brand lines, shake up locker rooms dramatically, and inject real dissent and chaos into their programming, having Moxley return as the mystery attacker would deliver maximum shock value and provide long-term intrigue that could sustain storylines for months. But there are some big and significant reasons to doubt this scenario and remain skeptical, with the first being the credible reports from trusted sources naming Theory as the attacker rather than anyone else, and second is the creative logistics involved, since World Wrestling Entertainment might prefer a younger and more malleable performer who they can mold and control rather than someone with Moxley's extensive baggage and history of doing things his own way. And lastly, it has been suggested by those familiar with backstage plans that the Mystery Man is part of a long-term angle that was specifically designed to elevate Theory and give him a major push. So for now, at this current juncture, Moxley remains more of a wishful theory and fantasy booking scenario than a credible contender for who is actually under that mask. But wrestling fans should never count him out completely, especially if World Wrestling Entertainment decides they want a hard reset or a massive paradigm shift that shakes everything up. And if the Masked Man was indeed Theory as the evidence suggests, fans should expect the Vision faction to grow increasingly bolder and more aggressive in their actions. A young and dangerous character working under a mask and operating in the shadows could destabilize locker rooms across multiple brands, forcing alliances to reconsider their loyalties, adding paranoia and distrust to backstage interactions, and giving the Vision plausible deniability for almost anything that happens backstage or in matches, since nobody can definitively prove who was responsible. And for Punk specifically, this is a massive test of his resilience and adaptability, as he is no longer just facing brute power and physical dominance, but he is dealing with cunning strategy and betrayal from unexpected sources. The stakes for his next world title defense or major feud just went up drastically and exponentially, and for Breaker, he gets shielded from taking losses, elevated to an even higher status, and positioned as the face and leader of a rising heel faction that could dominate for years. And with Theory potentially working under his wing, he gains tremendous flexibility in how he operates, since he does not always have to fight directly or put himself at risk, but he can always make chaos happen with a single misdirect or strategic deployment of his masked enforcer. But beyond the individual performers and their personal storylines, this shift might mark a broader creative direction that World Wrestling Entertainment is heading toward for the foreseeable future, as the company seems to be leaning heavily into chaos, uncertainty, and the spectral threat of unknown attackers. And instead of clean and straightforward storylines with clear beginnings and endings, we are entering an age of shadows where any locker room could potentially hide a sleeper agent and any backstage corridor could hold a returning legend who is ready to shake things up and turn everything upside down. Here are some bold predictions for how World Wrestling Entertainment might play this out in the coming weeks and months ahead, and how WWE Discuss would provide coverage of these developments, starting with the possibility that Theory becomes a full-time enforcer for the Vision faction, keeping the mask for a few weeks or even months while working as their designated hitman, and gradually his identity would leak out through various means, culminating in a dramatic unmasking ceremony on Raw or at a major pay-per-view event that generates massive buzz. Another prediction involves psychological warfare being waged against Punk and his allies, as after the initial shock attack, the Masked Man may continue to show up backstage unexpectedly, interfere in matches at crucial moments, cut cryptic promos that leave people guessing, or leak backstage footage that reveals sensitive information. And the aim of all this would be to make Punk paranoid, unstable, and unsure about who he can trust in the locker room. And there is also potential for internal dissension inside the Vision faction itself. A new weapon-like Theory joining the group may generate jealousy among existing members, create tension over who gets the spotlight, or even lead to betrayal down the line. And maybe the storyline could evolve into Theory becoming a double agent who is playing both sides, or it could spark infighting within the faction that tears them apart from within. And another intriguing possibility is a surprise return where Moxley or another veteran is not actually under the mask, but arrives separately as a counterweight to the Vision's growing power. World Wrestling Entertainment may use the Mystery Man angle as a way to mask an even bigger splash that is coming, and if Moxley does return to the company, the question becomes, could he challenge the Vision faction and stand against them, or would he shockingly side with them and join their cause? And the uncertainty alone surrounding his potential allegiance would be enough to sell tickets and generate interest. And there are also world title implications to consider given that Breaker pinned Punk with outside help. Fans should expect a renewed world title feud to develop from this situation, as Punk might demand stipulations for a rematch such as a steel cage or some other environment that prevents interference, or the storyline of Punk the babyface versus Breaker plus the Masked Man might become a long-term narrative that extends over multiple pay-per-view events. And WWE Discuss's coverage in the coming weeks could include several focused topics, starting with an investigation into who really is the Mystery Man with a deep source breakdown. Additional coverage would examine Theory versus Moxley versus wildcard scenarios and which makes the most sense from a creative standpoint, explore the psychological war that is unfolding and what Punk should strategically do next to counter these tactics, and provide post-unmasking analysis if and when the big reveal finally happens to break down what it means for everyone involved. And if I personally had to make a bet based on all available evidence and logical reasoning, I believe that the masked attacker was indeed Austin Theory as the multiple reports suggest. The reports from credible sources, insider confirmations from people with access to backstage information, and creative logic all point directly toward this conclusion, and it feels very much like World Wrestling Entertainment is building a slow burn angle where they bring a fresh face back into the spotlight under a mask to create intrigue, allow the mystery to simmer and build anticipation, and then reveal the truth at just the right moment for maximum impact and audience reaction. As for Jon Moxley, while I genuinely love the idea and think it would be incredibly exciting, I believe right now that particular rumor is primarily fan-driven wishful thinking rather than something based in reality, because if World Wrestling Entertainment truly wanted Moxley to be part of this angle, they would not need to play the mask game and build mystery, as they would just show him directly and let his presence speak for itself. So for now at least, he remains a potential wild card for a future shock appearance somewhere down the line, but probably not for this specific mystery attacker storyline that is currently unfolding, and what I expect to see next in the coming episodes includes Theory working backstage in his masked role, the Vision faction gaining even more momentum and dominance, Punk struggling both mentally and emotionally with the paranoia and uncertainty, and the wrestling world becoming increasingly polarized around two fundamental questions that everyone is debating: who is that man under the mask, and who is going to be targeted next? That wraps up this comprehensive deep dive for the WWE Discuss family, as the mystery of the masked man is not just a footnote or minor detail in the larger story, but it could very well be the spark that reignites some of World Wrestling Entertainment's biggest and most compelling storylines heading into 2026 and beyond. So keep your eyes peeled for every development, keep your popcorn ready for the drama, and keep your theories and predictions locked in the comments section below where we can discuss and debate together. We are going to ride this wild and unpredictable train together as a community, and as always, make sure to like this video, subscribe to WWE Discuss if you have not already, hit that notification bell so you never miss our coverage, and we will continue watching World Wrestling Entertainment's every twist, every turn, and every suplex with detailed analysis, and until next time everyone, stay tuned and stay engaged with all the action.